Hey guys, it's really beautiful, and I thought I would actually take a moment here. I was doing some sprints in the sun, in nature, and I'm feeling really cheerful. Hope you're having a great day as well. And I thought I would introduce you to a set of really amazing ideas. And I talk about the reward system a lot, right? And today you're going to understand a little more into what is the reward system and why does it matter. And so if you're watching the replay, comment hashtag replay. If you're watching the live, comment hashtag live. And jumping into the biochemistry of archetypes. And this is a huge, very huge interest of mine, and it's definitely going to be showing up in my book. But let's start off by explaining what an archetype is and why is it important. So when it comes to learning and when it comes to improving, you can kind of seek out information of, let's say the new world, leveraging science, leveraging all the technology and all the insights we have about the brain, which, as you know, I'm very passionate about because it brings us unique insights that really no people on this earth have ever had access to until now. So it's a very exciting time. But looking at the past and the wisdom of ancients, right? We have religion, we have different books, we have different stories, and all these stories have survived for a reason. And the only reason I mention that is because we're gonna need some set of ideas to live by, right? If we just kind of follow pleasure exclusively without context, our life wouldn't be good. We would be only impulsive, and we would just avoid pain, avoid what is uncomfortable, and move towards things that are pleasurable, right? So we would all be addicts. We would do nothing. We would do nothing useful, and we would only look out for ourselves. Now, there's a lot that could be said about that because we're really programmed for a much bigger, a very different way to live. So it's a pretty big topic there. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because so many people, when I ask them, what's the main obstacle towards being, let's say, disciplined or getting excited about goals again, or losing weight, or basically getting into a shape that they're proud of, right? So that they feel like their body represents their values. They feel like they look the character, and they're able to exhibit the traits that they would like to be seen by others, and basically to communicate that non-verbally. So when you're doing that, you need a set of ideas that kind of protects you and guides you, right? So where could we get those ideas? And like I said, we have science, and that gives us a lot of insights. But the big criticism on the science part is that it doesn't give us a path. It doesn't give us meaning, right? And you need meaning if you're gonna get healthy for the long term, not just like get shredded, for a moment and then kind of relapse into your old behavior and kind of jump like a lot of fitness professionals do. They jump between being extremely, stage ready lean, or being pretty much fat. And a lot of the fitness people that I've come across, they have some of the most unhealthy relationships with food. They really have that kind of starvation relationship towards food. Their stress response literally goes off when they come across food, because oh my god, calories. And now we can obviously talk about nutrition being primarily constituting of micronutrients and focusing on brain health and hormonal health, and why that's significantly better for well-being and long-term success. But if we don't have really high quality ideas that kind of keep us stable, we're going to fall for a lot of stupid things, basically, and very simple ideas that will eventually harm us. So if we are to have a solid base where we cannot be easily shaken, then we need sophisticated ideas that protect us and are able to guide us across multiple situations. So this is where, the ancient wisdom, so to say, ideas that have existed and that we're now able to develop on, and can be really, really amazing. And those specifically are, for example, archetypes. And archetypes are a huge interest of mine. And what an archetype is it's a little bit difficult to explain, but an archetype is you could say it's a personality that has been observed across time. That human beings, no matter the culture, no matter the ideas, no matter the religion, that human beings can we can narrow different aspects of personality down into different roles, different personalities. And these personalities, this is not like, and oftentimes when I mention archetypes, people are like, oh, where can I test this? Where can I see what I am? Right? And this is probably one of my favorite things, is that that's not what it's about. An archetype is not a personality trait that you take Myers-Briggs and you're like, these are my tendencies. These are the things I have a proclivity for, like the big five. That can be useful, but oftentimes people treat that as a diagnosis of who they are and what they're capable of, when in reality it's just a snapshot of your current neuroplasticity. By the way, if you want a video on neuroplasticity, comment neuroplasticity below. And I'm trying to give you a lot of context into this, because it's very meaningful as far as how far this can take you, in terms of your drive, in terms of engaging your reward system, and in terms of giving you a path for solving certain problems. So, kind of like I said, archetypes are really an idea of consistent patterns in history, in evolution, in societies, of certain aspects where someone's personality is leaning towards a certain way. Someone's personality is more developed in this one aspect and less developed in this one aspect. And the key word there is development. So what are these archetypes? So the four main archetypes that are specifically related to something that I'll share a lot of today. There's a lot of different things, but the four main ones that are very powerful, especially in terms of giving you a path towards development and developing your character, are the four archetypes. And these four archetypes are king, warrior, magician, and lover. And we all develop them differently, and we are all, when we talk about potential, this is the fun part, right? Is that we all have the capacity to become a version of ourselves that is able to function across all of these different archetypes, these different personalities. Is that I am capable of developing my magician, my warrior, my lover, my king, almost personality, and so can you. And a lot of different problems in your life are going to call for a different version of yourself. Certain problems call for a warrior, and it can best be solved through discipline, through effort, through really hard work. But many other problems cannot be solved that way. Relationship problems, business problems of certain types, you can't solve them with hard work. Similarly with health, for example, long term, depending on what your life looks like, if you can put all your effort, all your warrior into getting fit, then you might have a shot. But if you have a lot of other areas in your life that are pulling on you and that require the warrior of you, that require adrenaline, which is what the warrior archetype really represents. Are you familiar with producing adrenaline, with producing effort, with being disciplined, with not getting distracted, with having a purpose and going down one certain line? And that's a very important thing to develop, is to have a warrior. Because if you don't have a warrior, you will easily become a victim, right? And there's different pathologies of each archetype. So you can see it in yourself, and this could be an amazing self-awareness exercise. But even looking across your friends and family, which aspect of their personality do you think is dominating? Because we all have something that came more naturally, something that initially in our life, that was the first thing it was called for. That was the first archetype that we had to bring forth, that we had to develop, because that's what our environment called for. So for example, for me, warrior was definitely the first kind of thing that came up. It was my warrior in soccer, in fighting with kids in school, and it was the first kind of really the first development that I had to access. And one of the biggest calls, this is basically a hero's journey, and this is something that you're called upon too, is that one of the first disappointments, one of the most difficult things that happened was that my warrior personality wasn't enough. And that led to a lot of discouragement. That led to losing my warrior for a while, because I was like, well, it doesn't work. dealing with my own injuries, the warrior wasn't good enough because it wasn't about more effort. And what that moment actually called for, so I was depressed, I was suicidal, my soccer career was on the line. I thought this was I didn't care. I had no positive emotion coming from anything else. I didn't care about friends, I didn't care about anything but soccer. And when that was taken away from me because of injuries, there was a huge identity crisis, right? Because it's like, what can I do? I had these physical therapists come in and try to help me, but to be honest, their problem solving wasn't good enough. And so I was there was no one that could help me. So that's how I, found some of my initial mentors in terms of biomechanics, and progressively developed on their ideas that then led me to being able to solve the problem. But in that very moment, so I was able to solve my own injuries. I was able to solve a lot of my health problems because I I've channeled that warrior into curiosity. And that curiosity led me down a path of being much more intelligent, being much more strategic, finding and understanding, hidden knowledge. The way Merlin is portrayed with, being all over the place, being crazy and having all these strange experiments and being, I kind of began to develop that side of myself. And a lot of my friends, and my brothers would joke that I am now a shaman, and what I'm referring to now, that was probably 6-7 years ago. But that's how I developed my magician. And it was out of necessity. So in order for you, in your journey, whether you're dealing with mental health, with performance, with, growing your career or building. And so a lot of you listening, that's what you're called for in right now. There is if you're having a problem that you can't fix, it's not going to be about more effort. It's not necessarily going to be about following the same strategy. Similar thing, so like you could think of staying consistent and persistent with one strategy. That's not really what achieving consistency is, right? So let's say you're struggling with consistency. Well, most of the time, if you're, of course, there's many things that you could do to develop your warrior, but warrior by nature is very narrow in their thinking. And that's going to destroy you, because if your life doesn't revolve around health, mine doesn't. Like, I mean, I'm a business owner. That's the main thing. And so I have my health so that I can perform the best I can, right? I'm a father. So it's not like, that's really how you kind of need to think about it, is that you want your health to support everything else that you're doing, which, by the way, the higher your health, the more capacity for learning you have. You have higher levels of neuroplasticity. You're able to expand your character. You're able to understand concepts better. You're able to develop a sophisticated understanding of various problems, let's say, some that are, never ending, right? Like dealing with people, like communicating, like influencing, or like optimizing your output. But basically, a lot of the times, it's called for a more a problem that you can't solve is a call for a more comprehensive approach, and that's what a magician could give you. Which means you have to get curious, you have to find out, you have to seek out someone that actually understands it. So, and that's really, it's a beautiful thing, really, to kind of go through that development. Similarly with King, right? The king and the warrior really were the ones that came the easiest to me initially. But you can see it in yourself as well. King is basically confidence, whereas a warrior is discipline. A magician is really your curiosity, your openness, your intellectual sophistication, you could say. How much you've learned, how much useful knowledge you've learned. And a lover is simply... it's empathetic behavior. It's, are you connected to people? Are you able to connect with people? Can you relate to other human beings? Are you, do you care? Do you have that human element, right? If you could be the most competent individual on the planet, but if you don't have a lover, like if you don't have the lover developed inside of you, then you're going to be you're going to kind of be like me initially in my younger years, is that I couldn't really connect with people. Took me the longest time to kind of begin to develop that, not really, and it wasn't really care or empathy. It was just this healthier level of connection and building relationships. And so all of those are important. And really, without the lover, you become a crocodile. You have no oxytocin in you, which brings me back to my point of, okay, what's the biochemistry that underlies each? Well, the lover is definitely the oxytocin circuits. It's the oxytocin circuits. It's the relating to others circuits. It's your mirror neurons. Your emotions. And it's of course much more sophisticated than this. There's a lot that is going on, but that's the oxytocin circuits. And so if you feel like you are lacking that lover, that human, that kind element of yourself, then there could be an element of suppressing that part of you. Now, the king is really the serotonergic system. It's the chemical of status. It's the chemical of how highly do you think of yourself, how highly do you view yourself, and most importantly, it's not just about confidence, because if you're competing and getting your confidence from really ridiculous things, then it's not really these archetypes are practiced in relationship, in interacting with other people. So it's not necessarily just that it doesn't matter what the standards are. Because there is a dark side to both lover, king, warrior, magician. And in terms of lover, if you have a pathology of the lover, let's say you could easily be a weakling and needy and very addicted to approval of others, and we can see that a lot. So if a lover gets on social media, they're not going to be in a good place. And a lot of people are predominantly lover in our society today. And, a lot of people complain that our society is growing weak. I do think it's a good thing that we are focusing in on empathy and connection with others. However, it's also very important that you are able to bite and that you're able to function across these other dimensions that are also necessary. So, if you look at, for example, the warrior, kind of like I said, it's really the adrenaline circuits, but it's also related to just catecholamines in general, which is both dopamine and adrenaline, because it's really about, is your drive directed at something meaningful, or are you investing your drive? Is your dopamine pulling you in a direction that is disciplined and related to a purpose, or are you just going for impulsive pleasures? Are you impulsive? Are you weak? Basically. So you can see pathologies of that as well. If you don't have a warrior, you will also be weak. But you could also be a sadist. You could also be very unempathetic, very ruthless, so to say. And certain environments celebrate pathologies of different archetypes. But in general, we're trying to go towards a light path, a positive path, a developed and mature development of these characters. And if you don't really develop the warrior, you're unfamiliar with the world of adrenaline and effort and aggression, which is not good, because you won't be able to really move out through the world. But then when you look at the warrior, it's also the archetype of action. You can also think of these things as warrior is action, magician is thought, king is being, who you are, how you hold yourself really, and lover is feeling. And in order to really become the best version of yourself, you need all of them developed. And a lot of times the next area in your life is going to come from, and really the next almost progression is going to come from developing a certain aspect of yourself, depending on which path you choose. And so when you think about it, your curiosity is not just random. It's pulling you there. You're thinking about it. You're interested in it for a reason. And so that can give you so much power in just finding clarity, is that you just have to find the next best step. You don't have to prepare this large vision right now. It's much more about just what aspect of my development do I have to focus in on right now. And coming back to, let's say so we covered warrior, We covered the doing, the action, the discipline. We covered the king, which is, serotonin. Warriors being much more related to dopamine and adrenaline, the motivation aspect of things. The king being much more related to serotonin and self-image, and really, where are you getting your status from? And this actually had a pretty fun conversation with some neighbors of mine actually here by where I live, and we're actually talking about how what you take pride in really defines a lot, because what your pride is engaged in, what you begin to take pride in, what your status is all about, because you're going to compete for status no matter what. Your serotonin is going to make you. You could compete in status by adopting a Eastern religion that requires you to not have any goals, for example, or no pursuing, right? So you're abandoning dopamine, you're abandoning ambition, you're abandoning wanting. That's still competing in status. You're still competing in a hierarchy. You're still, you still have an ideal, but some people are going to kill that ideal, and that usually turns out to be a really bad thing. So as soon as you begin to think more about what's the ideal version of me, now you have kind of categories and branches of where should I put my effort in right now? What would allow me to develop the most? And obviously health is going to support that. There's a huge interaction between health and the archetypes. If you have poor health, you're going to be gravitating towards pathologies of each, because if you don't have any energy, how good of a warrior are you going to be? If you have thyroid problems, if you have hormonal imbalance, you're not going to function very well. If you have low testosterone, you're not going to make a very good king, because testosterone allows serotonin to flow into your brain. And on top of that, testosterone and really healthy hormones in general influence how well you're able to learn and abandon old useless patterns. So if you're feeling like there's a huge resistance towards changing, which, by the way, one of the main predictors, really a better prediction than serotonin and dopamine, of mental health is BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this in of itself allows your brain to change, and it protects your neurons, and it allows you to change your brain. Basically, it's a biomarker for neuroplasticity, and it's the best predictor of mental health and cognitive and emotional flexibility. And by the way, if you guys want me to do a in-depth breakdown of the biology of mental health, of depression, of anxiety, of PTSD, I'm very familiar with the literature there. It's a huge interest of mine. That's definitely where I want to branch out in the future, potentially. Obviously, I love performance. I love optimization. I love getting very strong and working with very ambitious people. But I also love working with people that are not finding themselves in the right spot right now and could use some help. And they would like to investigate, well, what can I actually do that would improve my brain health and not just stabilize me like medications do? Because I'm not against medications, but it's not a long-term solution. Medications will stabilize you, and that's good if you're not in a good place and you need that stability. But ultimately, you're going to have to find a better solution, a more sophisticated approach towards improving what produces well-being, what produces mental health, what produces the right self-image, what can destroy really negative thoughts and persistent depressive emotions and perceptions. It's a huge drain on one's life. So let me know. This is obviously this topic involves a lot of moving pieces. So hopefully it wasn't all over the place. Hopefully you're beginning to get a good picture, and hopefully it really fascinates you. If you would like help optimizing your health, and you guys can see in my cover photo some of the things I do, but if you guys would like to optimize your health, look and feel better than ever, have more energy, improve your cognitive function, build a nootropic stack that would allow you to thrive and function at the highest level possible, and on top of that, develop performance tracking and be able to really direct your efforts effectively and execute and follow through finally and build permanent behavioral habits and the changes that you want, then let me know below. Comment #me, and I'll definitely make sure to reach out, and I'll be able to provide as much help as I can. I can provide many resources depending on what you're facing and what you're struggling with. And obviously to even just look beyond willpower when it comes to these transformations, because if you're relying on willpower alone, you're going to have there's going to be very few things that's going to be enough in. It's not about necessarily about more willpower or more effort. It's about being much more strategic. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you did. This is something I could talk about for hours, but I want to make sure that it's relevant to you and that it's helpful. So this is one of those ideas when you put them inside of your reward system, you suddenly become more motivated. You see more options. You see more possibilities. You get more excited about the future. And you understand that you stop trying to judge a snapshot of where you're at right now, and you rather begin to have a conversation with your future self and who you could be, rather than focusing in too much on where you're at right now, because that's not as important as where you could be. So hope you enjoyed it.